Welcome to the Desire to Dream podcast. I'm your host, B.U.I.L.D. The vision of this podcast is to provide tools on how to become successful in your finances, business, leadership development, and much more. A little bit about me: I grew up in the hood, homeless at the age of 14. I made a choice not to become a product of my environment. And today, I am a successful businessman, community leader, and inspirational speaker. It is my desire to encourage and empower you to unlock your greatness. So tune in and enjoy the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Desire to Dream podcast. I'm your host, B.U.I.L.D. And today, man, I'm bringing back one of my homies, man, I'm talking about youth football, 5A, South, Hawkeyes. You know what I mean? My brother, Chad Rumble. What's good, bro?
What's good, Big Low, man? Very honored to be here, man, to be a part of this podcast, man. I've been a big supporter of it. I've been watching a lot of episodes and just honored to be here, man.
Salute, man. I appreciate that for real, man. And bro, I mean, you've been doing things for many years, bro. We stay connected ever since we were youth. We didn't go to the same high school, man, but you know, let's just talk a little bit about the old days, man, 5A football, because honestly, man, we were like 12, 13, whatever. And we had, man, some coaches that really built the foundation. The other thing, I want to shout out your pops, man, you know, Mr. Rumble. He used to be at every football practice, and you know, shout outs to him, because a lot of us, we were fatherless, right? So we didn't have any fathers, and your dad was someone that we looked up to because he went to every practice. He was at every game. You know, he always supported us, encouraged us, man. Even having water, like, hey, y'all need water? Like, you know, he always looked out, man. So, you know, shout outs to you, man. But bro, I really wanted to open it up and just talk a little bit about that, because I think not only was it fun, man, but it had so many like fundamentals and the foundation of who we all ultimately became. And I think we were talking about that before. So kind of share a little bit about that experience, man.
Yeah, man. I feel like that was a special experience for all of us. I feel like even for me, having my father there and seeing how he became kind of like, you know, the mayor of the fathers,
right?
At 5A football games. Him, Big
Mr.
Cal,
yep.
Carter. You know what
Carter,
I'm saying?
yeah. Rest in peace, man. So, shout outs to Mr. Carter too.
For sure, rest in peace to Mr. Carter. You know, because those guys, they were a big presence along with the coaches. You know what I mean, and molding us to be men. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How to handle responsibilities and things of that nature. And if you're serious about something, the passion in which you have to pursue it in, you know, and I feel like we all learned a lot of the foundations and fundamentals on the men that we ultimately became. And when you think about the guys that are there, you have like a lot of stand-up gentlemen. You know, you got Big Washington, you got Ralphie, you know what I mean? You got Jim, you got a list of guys that we played football with that were beneficiaries. Cal Carter, you know what I mean? Like, so just like thinking about all the guys that were a part of that movement that like were molded in those moments in those hot summers on the field where you know, crabbing up the hill.
Man, the hill, man, to the hill.
So doing all those things that we hated, you know, and then ultimately like molding us into a family, you know, on and off the field, you know, and we all stayed in contact with each other. And I feel like we were blessed to have that moment with each other, because like, I feel like even when we were in the moment of it, we didn't realize how special it was.
Yeah, for real, man. Yeah, for real, man. Hey, and it's wild, because like every time I think back, and when I was in 7th grade, man, I was I was a troublemaker, right? And like the one thing that I remember Coach Claiborne going up to my school, man. Like, I don't know if my mom, like, they planned it, and Coach Claiborne was our defensive coordinator, old school military. Like, he did not play any games, and he came up to my school one time, and I was acting up, and you know, Coach Claiborne went up there literally to check me out. He was like, I'm here, Mr. Wilder. He went in, and I was just like, oh, snap. And because I was acting up that day, I remember coming back to practice, and they were like making me crab like around the field. And crabbing is bear crawl, you know, around the field while everybody else was practicing. And I didn't have any father figure, you know what I mean? And so I guess my mom and him, they coordinated something, because he was like, this kid is acting up. And so, you know, character building,
For sure.
And discipline. Like that was like the main thing I remember gaining out of 5A football. And it was just like, wow, looking back at it, it was like, man, that's a lot. This is where a lot of it came from, man. And like you
For
said,
sure.
man, shout outs to the squad, because a lot of
Yeah.
dudes are just doing their thing, man. Jordan Toomer, like,
Jordan Toomer,
and
yeah.
Kirby, man, all of these cats that,
Dwayne, yeah,
yeah,
sure.
Dwayne, man, they all doing phenomenal things in the community. And yeah, we was able to take that and move on and just be able to do what we had to do, to survive,
For
man.
sure,
So
for
yeah,
sure. I got
definitely classic
another story
times.
I got to tell you. I don't know if I ever shared it with you. It's about Coach Johnson.
Okay, yeah.
Rest in peace, Coach
Yeah,
Johnson.
rest in peace to Coach Johnson, man.
Him and my father were, really, really close friends. And I feel like that was part of the reason why I reaped so much from the process of football, is because like I had serious individuals like Kevin Johnson in my life who were trying to teach me accountability and responsibility and,
Right.
attention to your craft,
That's
so
right.
I had a story of my dad. I later found out that they were in cahoots behind the scenes about this, but I remember I was just going through the motions in practice one time. And, that if anybody knows Coach Johnson, that was a pet peeve of his. Like,
Right.
go through the motions, go full tilt. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
All
Every time.
day. Yeah.
So I was just lollygagging, going through the motions sometimes, as I would do. And he called me to the side of the field. And when he called me over, I didn't run over. I kind of just walked. When I got over there, he got all up in my face mask, like he was grabbing it, twisting it around my neck. It's just like, I'm like, oh, what's going on?
Right.
Then I look over and I'm looking at my dad. I'm like, with my hands out, like, where he go? And as I turn around and look back, he clotheslined me. Boom! Knocked me off my feet. I'm like, oh man. So I just remember getting in the car and being like super tight, like with my dad, like what happened, you know what I'm saying? And
yeah, like you didn't have my back out there.
And then he just started laughing, like, you think he would do that if I ain't give him the okay? You know what I mean?
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it was kind of funny to me because like I was taking it personal, but in reality, he was showing me like, man, you just going through the motions. Life is more serious than this, and you got to take it more serious. And I feel like looking back, I was able to gather that message, but in the moment, I'm like, Coach, I'm tight. Why you doing me like that in front of everybody?
Right.
But, it was a character building moment, and there was a lot of those.
Oh
And
yeah.
we played 5A football on the South Side, and it built us.
That's
like
right.
Coach Claiborne. They're not gonna let you step out of line if we doing pit because you got somebody who's bigger than you. You're gonna have to really get yourself together and find that heart and that desire to get through what you got to get through to be able to get to your desired end goal. And I feel like that was just a lot of preparation for life.
Yeah, for sure, man. And it was like not making excuses. You know what I mean? Like you couldn't make an excuse. I remember we were playing them boys out in the suburbs, man. It was always a bit, they were always bigger than us, like Northampton. And Coach Claiborne used to be like, they put their shoes on the same way you do. There ain't no difference between you and them, and if anything, he would just build us up, man, with all this motivation and confidence, because he was like, y'all from this inner city, like they don't even have to worry about their next meal, like things like that. Because we had some cats like myself, man. We were in some tight situations, man, and we were just scraping up just to get by. We were surviving. And so we would just go out there, man, and just, man, shout out to Coach Claiborne, man, Coach Johnson. Man, I got a story for you, right? So I remember one time we were playing Westfield, and it was me and another tough team, right? And me and Theo, they had this one kid. He was, 8th grade, but he was probably like 6'4", right? And he was playing the defensive line, and he was really just like getting through on our side. But it was like, I ain't gonna lie, like I probably made a few mistakes, but I was supposed to chip him and then go to the next guy, right? And he was just killing us, man. And then Coach Johnson brought us on the sideline. He was like, he took our face masks, he took our helmets off. He's like, just getting in on us, man. And he slapped us, bro. I was like, what the heck? Like straight up just slapped us, man. And man, I'll never forget. I was so angry, bro. I went out there. We ended up winning, which was because it was a tough team, man. And Jimmy started balling out, man. And yeah, bro, like Crazy, but
Crazy.
definitely built the foundation for me, man.
For
For
sure.
real.
Let us know that it was serious, that it was real,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, bro, for real, man. So if you was in that area, you already know. So shout outs to the squad, man.
For
5A
sure.
South, man. We want to, we ain't lose that many games, bro. It was like Holyoke, and I think Northampton probably one time. But
For
yeah,
sure.
yeah, great time, man. So
We were a dominant force in the 5-8 network that, during that era. So,
hey, for
shout out to the
sure.
South Side.
Yeah, for sure, man. And then if you see, for those of y'all that are up in the Northeast, man, and know, man, a lot of us went to different high schools and dominated in high school, all Western Mass, winning championships. So definitely built a foundation of champions, man, to go into high school, bro. So word, man. Hey, then you go to Commerce, you graduate from Commerce, then you went to Temple University to
Yeah.
get your degree. So shout outs to you on that, man. And then now
Thank
you're in
you.
education, bro. So I definitely wanted to bring you in on this piece because you gave back to the community a lot, man, with Build 413. And, obviously COVID shut some of that down with the
Mhm.
community outreach stuff. But, man, you're in education, kind of talk about that, some of the challenges you're having. And obviously, it was a passion of yours, right? So the podcast is called The Desire to Dream. So you had this desire in school, like, what was it that hit you and said, man, this is where I need to be. This is what I want to do.
Yeah, I'll first start off by saying, shout out to Temple University because like that was really like I was, a young kid coming out there, 18 years old from Springfield, Massachusetts. That was all I had seen, so my views on the world were very like sheltered and limited
Mm-hmm.
up until that point. And then I got into Philadelphia and I feel like that was really like the training ground for me to become a man and living on my own, on my own terms. So I
Right.
kind of feel like I learned a lot about manhood in that time when I was by myself. And I didn't really have that many people from the 413 out there with me. There was a couple,
Right.
but not that many. You know what I mean? So for most people, I was the representative for what that looked like. And I took that very seriously because, if anybody knows me, I've lived a couple of places, but I've always been a 413 representative. Like for me, my hometown is what built me. So I go every place and that's what I rep. Even if I'm like, I've been living in New York for a long time, but everybody who knows me knows that I'm not from here.
You're
They know
right.
that I'm not from New York at all, that I'm from Massachusetts and not Boston either. You know what I
Exactly
mean?
right. You got to make that.
The
Hey,
place, the
always
place
got to make
talking,
that clear. I'm like, do you hear the accent? No,
yeah,
sir. Yeah, facts.
we get that a lot. I know anybody if they're from Springfield and they've been outside of Springfield and you've told people you're from there, they automatically assume Boston. And then you got to tell them like, no, Western Massachusetts. And then that's
Mm-hmm.
a whole dialogue right there about, educating people to Western Mass and where we're from. So
Right.
I took that very seriously, and I feel like that was like the preparation for manhood right there, being, the direct representation of your area. And I took that seriously. I took that as like a badge of honor.
Mm-hmm.
So leaving Temple University, I got into doing finance. I did apparel sales for a season. I did insurance. I kind of jumped around in different industries
Trying to
and
find what you
yeah,
wanted
trying
to
to find
do.
my fit because I was a
Mm-hmm.
part of the Inroads program. I'm not sure if you're familiar with
Oh yeah,
Inroads.
yeah.
Yeah.
Inroads, man. I actually spoke at Inroads in Florida, man, a few years back.
Okay, awesome, man. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I was part of the cohort, one of the cohorts where they took some young guys from the inner city and gave them some corporate salaried internships, and I
Mm-hmm.
was able to gain some experience through that. I feel like that experience also kind of made me a little bit more polished professionally before I got out there in the professional world full time.
Word.
So I jumped around to all these different industries. I kind of felt like I was the circle peg in the square hole, like it just wasn't a good
Right.
fit. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
I was having issues with looking for work at a particular period in my life. And I realized that a lot of the problems that I was facing or like the limitations that I was coming up against were like some of the same things I seen for younger kids.
Mm.
So for me, it was important to be able to give them some of the soft skills, interview skills, etiquette, maybe just introducing them conversations about healthy relationships, personal finances, like all of these things that I was learning on the fly myself. or I was being groomed for behind the scenes, like I wanted to be able to give that information back to the young kids in my community. So that's how myself and Ron Johnson, shout out to Ron Johnson, we came together, I believe it was 2015, you know what I mean? And we put together B.U.I.L D. We started Brothers United to Inspire Lifestyle Development. B.U.I.L D is the acronym. But we started that, and our flagship event was the Constructing Kings Male Youth Summit, where we would come and bring brothers from the area or like guys that we have professional connections with back to our community in Springfield at Springfield College. And, you know, we would give them some time with those young men to be able to develop a bond, share some information, and a lot of connections were formed in that space. If you've been there, you kind of could understand what I'm talking about. The energy every time you came was magnetic. You know, like I feel like there's a reason why like certain guys will always come back every year is because like that energy was really, really genuine. But we put that together for 5 years. We also did a documentary on it called No Passion, No Progress, 5 years of building. And it's on YouTube if, you know, anybody.
We definitely gonna drop that link in the description for sure. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, man. It's and it gives like a detailed look at the behind the scenes of like putting it together for 5 years, the guys who are involved. Like you get to see some familiar faces of guys that I'm sure
Bayman. I seen Bayman in there, man.
Yeah,
Timothy,
for sure, man. Some really powerful brothers came back and really contributed their time. And we're seeing the ripple effect now with the young men who were there at the time. And like one of them, shout out to Wesley Days. He's now, well, he was like, he said back then on the interview that he wanted to be on the Today Show, that was his dream. And he just wrapped up his internship for the Today Show. And now he's working on NBC on another show. So like, shout out to him. You know, you put those things into the world, you manifest them, and you know, you see the power in that. Even being like about 5-6 years removed from that time where he said that, he's living his dream, you know. So shout out to him for that.
Man, that's fire, bro. And man, I ain't gonna front. I remember, you know, you reached out to me and it was just conflict of scheduling and whatnot, and I couldn't get out there, man. I used to see the pictures, man, and I was like, bro, I saw the impact because I knew the need in Springfield, right? Because you know, we're in the inner city. There's not a lot of resources out there. So you provided a platform for young men, you know, to come in and learn these soft skills, the things that they weren't really teaching in school. So that's just powerful, man. And when you just shared about the brother Wesley, it's powerful because my dream acronym, the letter D stands for destination. Like, and destiny is short for destination. So whatever your destiny is or wherever it is, you need to know where you're going. I think that's the biggest thing with people as to why they end up doing whatever life throws at them, is because they never wrote down like what they wanted. It wasn't definitive. They couldn't define it. This young man said, I want to be on the Today Show, not knowing that was going to end up ultimately being something that he did career-wise, but he had a vision as to where he wanted to go, or at least where he saw himself. And I think that platforms like, you know, that you provided give kids the opportunity to kind of start thinking outside of the box. And then you have men that are there pouring into them, sharing with them. And shout outs to everybody that was a part of it, because I know they were flying in from different states. So that was major, man. And definitely, I know COVID put a pin in it, but I definitely look forward to seeing when that thing comes back out. What are some of the challenges you saw with the kids that were coming in? Like, because you know, I know there's a lot of people listening to this podcast that are parents. They probably got kids that are teenagers right now. What were some of the challenges that you saw, and maybe some advice that you can give them when their kids are saying, I want to do this? Because I think the old school mentality, and nothing against the old school, because y'all definitely paved the way for us and were trailblazers, but everyone's like, I always used to hear, go to college, get an education, get a good job, and retire. Right. Like that was the main thing, like everyone always said, you know, and the thing is, companies ain't loyal anymore. Right. And not only that, there's kids who want to go unconventional ways. And so did you have any kids like that? Like, because I know for some of us, we were like, man, we want to go to the NFL because that's all we saw, either NFL, NBA, or be a rapper. Right. That was like some of the things you see. But now entrepreneurial ventures are now looking very, very good. And so a lot of people are going that route. So, share some of that advice, man, with parents who might be having kids that are trying to do things that are unconventional.
Yeah, I think like one of the things that I saw the most frequent was like the kids having an idea of what they want to do and their parents being reluctant to support it.
That's
You know,
good.
I
Yeah.
feel like if your kid is leaning in a particular direction of something that they want to do or like a particular industry that they want to pursue, usually the difference between the people who get there and the people who kind of struggle are the amount of support that they had from the people around them. You know,
Right.
if you're
Right.
cultivating that passion or that interest that your kid is showing, chances are they might get there, because like if you're putting people in their path to be a direct influence to them and their interests, they're going to continue to, cultivate that interest and into mastery because it's
Right.
something that they're passionate about. But if you're forcing them to look into things that they're not necessarily interested in, I feel like they're gonna feel that internal struggle. And I feel like a lot of those kids were feeling that, whether they wanted to be a professional athlete, whether they wanted to be broadcast journalism was their passion. It was like they kind of had an idea, but they kind of felt like their parents were reluctant to support their dream,
Right.
and my dad very, very supportive of my ideas, but when I was going to a college myself, I would have a hard time convincing him to send me to art school versus business school because it was the practicality mindset,
Right. Right.
plan for our parents, was survival. It was built around survival. So it was like, look, man, get your education because that was the ultimate necessity. And then use your brain to be able to get you a job that you can sustain a family with, so that your family won't have to struggle. I think it was rooted in necessity. But now our mindset is kind of built on thriving, now that we've kind of established that, now we're thinking and looking outward,
That's good. That's good, man.
things that we can kind of pursue and like push our children in the directions of their passions. I think that a lot of it was built on like, the struggles that our parents had to go through just to be able to be,
Word.
and I think that we're standing on the shoulders of that now, trying to develop our purposes and searching for our purpose,
Yeah. Yeah. Now that's fire, bro, because thriving. I love that, right? Because you're sometimes you're in this mode of surviving, and then
Mm-hmm.
you get to this point where, all right, I'm over, I got over the struggle. And
Mm-hmm.
now I need to accelerate and I need to excel and execute at a higher level. And so I need to thrive. And so that's important. The other thing that you were saying that it was just like this struck to me was passion.
Mm-hmm.
Passion is the fuel to get your child to where they want to go. Passion is the fuel to get you, the listener, whoever's listening to this podcast, to where you want to go. If you're not passionate about your dream, you're not passionate about this business idea that you want to start, then chances are you shouldn't do that. I have my man's Mike Conley from Springfield 413. Shout outs to Mike with the standout truck doing phenomenal things. And he said this, and this was a powerful nugget. He said 95% of businesses fail in the first 5 years because 95% of the people shouldn't have started their business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like if you are not passionate about what you're doing and you don't put in the work, the resources to get that turn that dream into a reality, then chances are it's not going to happen, man. And it's important that you encourage your kid. I had someone tell me, my son, he wants to he loves video games so much and he wants to work in that industry. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, bro, like that industry is thriving. Like, and
Yeah.
then I'm not even talking about, like being on Twitch and being like a gamer. He actually wants to be a developer.
Yeah.
And I was
Developer.
telling him, I said, bro, like that, you need to encourage that, right? Because
Absolutely.
that is not something I know you might not be like understanding of that industry, but I've had
Mm-hmm.
friends who now work with EA Sports. I
Mm-hmm.
got friends who now work with other people in that industry developing video games, and they're having, it's very lucrative. And so that's important, man. I love that piece because we have to support. And not only that, for those that are listening, maybe you don't have kids, it's important that your spouse is supportive of your dream, right? So kind of talk
But
about that because I know you're married, man, beautiful wife, beautiful children, and your wife is very supportive of that because this Build 413 thing, this idea that came, 2015, it wasn't going to be free, right? Like you had to invest
Sure.
money in it and you had to put money into the thing. So how important is it for the spouse to be supportive of that and kind of share some of your experiences with your spouse and how she was supportive and vice versa, how you're supportive of her dreams and endeavors?
For sure. I feel like that's one of the most important things. I feel like that's something that we also tried to cultivate in the conversations that we had from doing the Constructing King's Male Youth Summit. It was like bringing the conversation about like healthy relationships and like
Word.
having the participants bringing in their partners to be able to share that conversation with the young men so that they could see what healthy relationships look like. And it's very reciprocal. Like a lot of the people had powerful wives that brought a lot to the conversation.
Word.
So I feel like for us, like we've been blessed to be able to have wives that support our dreams. And I feel like that is the fuel that gives us that breeze in our back when we're going out into the world and sometimes getting those no's thrown in our faces. Because
Mm-hmm.
like,
Word.
we get those too. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But I feel like when you have a support system and like a supportive wife at home, that's how you're able to kind of like weather those no's and those storms to be able to get to those yeses in the future. You know what I
Word.
mean? For my wife, particularly, she supported me from day one with this because she knew it was something that I was passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
Me being someone who was born and raised in the 413, I felt like if I was going to start giving back to the communities that I was coming from, I had to start at home. You know what I
Word.
mean? Like I couldn't start in Philadelphia because like my roots weren't there. I started in Springfield.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of how all of those things started. And she was kind of like on the ground floor with me with planning it, developing, where we were going to have it, like who was going to be a part of it, what fits for the breakouts that we were coming up with. I was bouncing all of these questions off of my wife. She was my thought partner through the entire process.
Man, that's
Uh,
fire.
yeah, so all of those things like that happened as a result, she was a direct part of, so
Word.
it was so natural that when she wanted to start stepping out in her bibliotherapy practice, Literacy NYC, that it was just like, it was so natural for me to support her the same way that she supported me.
Man,
So
yeah. That's dope, man. And I seen the post on that too. So definitely shout outs to the wife, man, with her endeavors, and wish you
thank,
nothing but success in that, man. And
yeah, thank
again,
you very
yeah,
much.
no doubt, man. And now you're in education, man. You're an educator, you're helping individuals. You're working with special education,
Mhm.
people that have needs and whatnot. And I know the challenges in that, man, but kind of share, because there's other individuals like special education or mental disabilities that people have now. Like, what are some of the challenges you're seeing with the parents in that field? Like, what is there any encouragement, any tips that you can give, because you're dealing with it on a daily basis? But maybe share some tips that you can help someone who's dealing with that, or maybe you have a family member who has that, because I think it's a topic that nobody really talks about, right? It's like they kind of
Mhm.
push it in the side. And we need to help encourage and empower them too, man. It's not like game over for them individuals. So share a little bit of advice on that, where you can help people and uplift their spirits.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like for me, special education was something that I naturally came to because someone encouraged me to go pursue education as maybe a particular passion of mine. It was actually James Morton. Shout out to James Morton.
Word.
Um, he was my high school social studies teacher. So, and ironically, he ended up being the first keynote speaker for the Constructing Kings Male Youth Summit.
Word.
Also,
That's what's up. Full
yeah.
circle. I love it.
But yeah, shout out to James. He actually asked me if I had considered teaching, and at the time, I was still doing the summit. I never really thought about that, but he kind of made me think about it and put it in my thought process because I was seeing the effect that I was having on the lives of kids that were coming
Hmm.
to the summit. And I thought maybe teaching could be an extension of that same passion. So I applied to the New York City Teaching Fellows program and I got into that and it naturally placed me in the inner city school. And I feel like that's where I got my background in special education, So it started
That's
out
what's
in
up.
that. And I taught at Eagle Academy Harlem for about 3-4 years. Shout out to Eagle Academy, like those people in that building, you know what I'm saying? Like as far as like the kids and stuff, like they definitely like helped mold and shape me as an educator. And then I ended up at the school that I'm at now, and we cater to special education and more particularly students on the autism spectrum. So it was like at first I got there and it was like such a rewarding experience, you know. And ironically, like 1 year into being a teacher there, my son was actually diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. So my preparation from school kind of started helping me help prepare me for life, you know. So
Right.
I started having those conversations with my students, just kind of like getting to know them a little bit differently. And it was like, you know, such a rewarding experience because a lot of my students were able to see me as a lighthouse in that space. And they felt comfortable coming to me in my classroom. And I feel like that was one of those things that like awoke in a new space in me as an educator, because it was where my personal and my passion was meeting. And I feel like building those relationships with those students ultimately led to me having the largest impact, you know, because I'm a firm believer that kids can't really learn from people that they don't like. You know,
That's good.
there has to be some kind of common bond or bridge that you can find with that kid to be able to make that impact. And I feel like my first few years or my first couple of years, I was like just getting to know them. But like when I seen them developing into young adults while they were going into like 7th and 8th grade, I was really encouraged about the adults that they would develop into. And the most thing that I could say is like, you know, if you have a child who is neurodiverse or comes from a neurodiverse household whom you're trying to build a bond with, you know, they're very similar to just normal everyday kids. You know, they're trying to have fun, they're trying to learn, you know, they have certain unique quirks that are different from everybody else, but you know, individuals, we're all different anyway. You know what I mean? So I feel like embracing those differences and like pushing towards those strengths because they have so many of them, that like that's the most important. I feel like for any parent, you know, like in supporting your children, you should lean towards their strengths. Like if you see them developing a particular passion for something, even if you don't know anything about it, like cultivate that, push them towards that, because ultimately that could be their superpower, you know?
Right. Man, that's powerful. And I'm just like, wow. And also, man, I just want to celebrate you, man, and congratulate you for stepping into that role and living out that passion, that dream, because it's needed. And you know, I wanted to give you my flower, give you your flowers now, right? And just kind of share that with you and celebrate you because, bro, it's not easy. And education is not easy, especially in the field that you're in. And so definitely shout outs to you and doing the work and really helping people in the New York area, man. So man, that's dope, bro. And
Oh, I
look, man,
appreciate that, man.
yeah, no doubt,
For
man. And
sure, man. And before you go any further, I gotta to extend that same love right back to you, man, because like, you know, this
appreciate
podcast
that,
is
bro.
a platform for brothers like us to be able to share our journeys, our stories, and be able to impact a larger audience than we come in contact with on a day-to-day basis. So, you know, I just wanted to give you your flowers in
Man,
return. Like it
appreciate
means a
that.
lot to me to see you in this space. You know what I
Man,
mean?
yeah, for
I
sure, man.
know from where you
Yeah.
I know from where you come from, you know,
Right, man.
how much it means for us to be sitting across from each other right now,
Word.
you know?
Yeah, nah, for sure, man. I appreciate that for real.
No
It's
doubt.
nothing but love, my dude. And
Always.
yeah. So, dude, hey, powerful episode, man. I appreciate you and your time, man. You know, I'm gonna
No
let you
doubt.
get at it, man. And before we go, I always ask my guests this question at the end, and sometimes I miss out on it, but it was it just hit me. And if there was something that you can encourage yourself, man, many like when the 25 28-year-old Chad, like what is it that you would tell yourself that might be able to be a nugget that can help the listeners in their lives?
Stop waiting for people to tell you you got it. You got it already. Just go.
Mm, That's a hey. I need to get the DJ Clue bomb, man. I need to get that thing so I can drop it because that's fire, man. Oh man, bro.
Yeah,
Man,
man.
listen, man. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate your family and your wife, man. You're doing phenomenal things, man. Continue to work in the
Thank you, my brother.
community, doing what you're doing, man, and being the father and the husband that you are, bro. I'm so proud of you, man. Proud to call you
Thank
my
you, man.
brother, man, my boy. And we gotta
Thank
link
you.
up, man. I need to come to the
For
city because
certain.
you know I'm a
Absolutely.
Giants. Hey, I gotta come see my Giants play,
Yeah,
and
man.
I'm gonna go check you out, man, with the
And
family, man.
I gotta get you a build in a giant blue. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
hey, let's get it, man. Let's
Yeah,
get
for
it,
certain.
bro. Like, let me know, man. I needs that, man. But shout outs to you, bro. I'm gonna have all the social media handles in the description. You can go check it out, man. He's got some phenomenal stuff that he's doing, and with COVID and everything opening back up, I just know it's gonna all come back, and it's gonna be even better. I will be at the next Constructive Kings Summit, man. Trust me, I will be there at that one. So the next one you do have, I'll be there, brother. And
No doubt.
continue to put in the work, man. Love you, bro.
Love you too, bro. Appreciate you for
No
having
doubt.
me.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Peace out, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Desire to Dream podcast. Like and share with your friends. Hey, we're going to continue to bring some powerful content, individuals like Chad who are just killing it, executing at a high level in their fields, in their respective fields, and sharing their journey so that they can help you turn your dream to reality. Peace out.